Your knowledge of contract language is imperative.
You must know what a violation looks like if you wish to be active in its cessation.
It is important to understand that being active and knowledgeable affects your overall bargaining strength.
Together, we can forge a more militant NALC.
Good morning and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, the podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball, recording from the beautiful city of Roseville, Michigan. Currently at grievance number 438 for the year. Today, I'll be doing an episode on being effective writing grievances with a grievance tracking system. I was supposed to have a Zoom call on this very topic last night, but it was unfortunately canceled due to some health issues my family had been facing. I figured for those who missed out, I'll put together the best episode I can in order to accommodate what's missing. This will be a part 1, and a part 2 will be about using the grievance system, and then there will also be a video that I will post. Some of what I describe here might be better off in a visual format, but I don't have a video subscription for my podcast posting, so the second part will have to be posted on YouTube, or well, the third. Still, I will post my visual representation of what I'm showing to you here on the Parcels of Knowledge Facebook. Follow that Facebook because that's where I post all my documentation. That way you can follow along with what I have to show you. First, I'd like to start off by saying, in no way is my system pretty or the best format possible. And that's okay. Not everyone knows how to mess with macros on Excel. If what you've got to do is inaccessible or untranslatable to the general public, then it isn't worth the weight it possesses for anyone but yourself. So my system is a simple system, and I set it up myself with little to no technical knowledge other than that which is taught in high school, and I'd like to keep it that way, because this is for stewards, everyday stewards who are just letter carriers. They're not computer science majors. They're not anyone who can be crazy with the computers. So my system can be broken down into 3 main gears of the machine: financial accounts, grievance logs, and settlements. In part 1, we're going to be talking about grievance logs, the backbone of the system. Translating your log into a virtual form might feel foreign at first, but essentially, I've found it to be the most beneficial thing ever. Plus, you can turn it into your branch, if that's what you guys do, very easily by sending an email. You may keep a paper log as a backup, or just back up your virtual one as well. But I will give you the steps to create a virtual one. First, you need a copy of Microsoft Excel. In that program, you must create a table. Under the Insert tab, you must click on Table, and then it will ask you for the dimensions of the table. I would suggest dragging the highlighted box to 15 boxes wide, and drag it down to maybe 500 spaces, or however many grievances you kind of do on average. You can add to it later, but you don't quite yet know how many grievances you will have this year, and I'd be a little bit more generous, because being generous is better than going short on it. Ensure to have the Headers dialog box clicked before pressing Create Table. The Headers function is very useful, because it will allow you to create categories that you can refine, which is the main feature of this log that sets it apart. I suggest 15 boxes wide because there is 15 categories of things I think are useful at refining, but you can fit it into your own needs. In my opinion, the more the better. My suggested 15 categories are as follows: grievance number, incident date, grievant, violation, issue statement, step resolved, resolution, resolution date, cost of the service, USPS designee, NALC designee, sets precedent, days to resolve, months reduced, and rescinded. If you want to follow my example, you will look at the top of the document, and there will be a column 1 through 15 as headers for each box. Change each header to the aforementioned categories. Some of these may sound trivial, but trust me, the more control you have over this document, the better. I suggest, if you want to do this system, convert prior years into this format, and that way you'll understand exactly what you're doing for this year. If you're starting it off this next year, I would suggest waiting till the 1st of 2026, and in the meantime, you can catalog all the other grievances in this system for future reference. But from there, you would start the year off logging each and every grievance into the log as time goes on. And if you want to print it, I would suggest that you highlight the section of the table that has data and then print as print selection rather than printing the whole thing. Usually I use the option to print with all columns on each page. The text may be small, but that's okay. It can be adjusted. Later on, I will demonstrate how the grievance log categories can be utilized to solve issues in little to no time thanks to the 3 gears of the system working in combination. To stay on task and to have a complete understanding of where everything is, I keep my grievance log color-coded. I use red for cases that need to be built, blue for cases that have been built and are being met on, green for cases that have been settled, and yellow for cases that are precedent-setting, and purple for cases that have been rescinded. Under cost of the service, this can be determined either by GATS receipt or by issuing lump sums only in your resolutions, as I have mentioned in a prior episode. Issuing lump sums only can be a tough challenge at first, but becomes very easy over time. This is the way I recommend you issue grievance settlements, because it's the final number that management agrees on and you agree on. Now, I keep a seniority roster of each carrier and the current pay status. Usually I determine this by first weeding out the transfers, because transfers need to be calculated based on the date they become regular. So for those guys, I would ask for their Form 50s or something equivalent so you can determine the date they became regular. Everyone else can be determined by the seniority roster date, because that is the date they become regular. The way to calculate regulars is to take the date they become regular and to use a date calculator to determine how many weeks it has been since that date. You can find these date calculators on the internet. Now, if you need to determine the days because you can't find one that does it by weeks, obviously you do it by days and you divide it by 7 to find out the weeks. But once you determine the amount of weeks, you divide that amount by 46. This is because there's 46 weeks between each step, at least in Table 2. Then you can determine how many step progressions the carrier has had. For example, my date that I became regular is 1/28 of 2023. I threw that in a calculator online, and it shows that it's been 139 weeks and 4 days. We don't really care about the days, but 139 weeks divided by 46 is 3.02, which means I have had 3 step increases. That determines I am now in Step D. Now this method can only work on Table 2, because Table 2 is 46 weeks between every single pay step. But that's okay, because most of Table 1 is already at top step. And with CCAs, you can use a very similar fashion to determine their pay rate, because they only have 1 increase. Additionally, this method will be a little harder considering the new step removal of A. But all this takes is clarity on behalf of the person doing the math. As a steward, you kind of know the ins and outs, or you should know the ins and outs of everybody in your station, and that's really what it's going to take in order to do this type of thing. I normally would create my own seniority roster and put all their names on there and update it regularly, once every quarter or so. You cannot do this method without a good understanding of where everyone stands and a history of where they started. Now the second gear to my grievance machine is settlements. I suggest each and every steward get an ACE account. Request one through your postmaster or get your president to do it for you if you're having issues. ACE accounts are email accounts in the postal network, but the main reason why you should get them is that it usually gives you the ability to scan documents for free. Once you have an ACE account, you should have permission to scan your documents at a postal scanner and send them directly to your postal email, where you can send it to your personal email. These scanners are usually found in most offices. If you don't have an office that has one, well, then I guess you don't have any luck with that, but this is necessary for building the settlement portion of your system. So you can use your own scanner if you really need to. In this section, I would scan your settlements for reference. Put them in numerical order as one PDF document. I normally do them at the end of the year because I keep my settlements in order anyway throughout the year, and if I need them for reference, I have a stack. But for future reference, I scan them into the system so that I can later on refer to them in numerical order. I would make one document for reference for each year, or split it into multiple, but make sure to separate it by year. This way, when the year 2025 log is completed, I would scan the entire year of 2025 into PDF format and place it in a folder under the Settlements folder and name the folder 2025. If you want to reference any 2025 settlements, for example, if you find that case number 31 might be useful to reference, you scroll down to the settlement since it's in numerical order, and then you print that settlement for reference. The third gear of the grievance machine is financial accounts. Whenever I log my grievances that have been settled, I make sure to make a financial spreadsheet for that carrier and add to it that settlement. This is part of the reason why dealing with lump sums is so fantastic, because you and management know exactly what is due to the carrier and when, and the carrier can fully understand if they've been paid in full. On that financial spreadsheet, I create a separate log to track what grievances have been settled for that carrier and when, and who is the steward of record. And if not, we have received receipt for that settlement processing into GATS. This is a good thing for morale as well, as also accountability, because quarterly you can print these financial accounts for the carriers to fully understand everything you've done for them for the year, and to ask them, hey, have you received all this? And if not, let me know, because I'm going to perform an audit. I have recovered settlement payments that have slipped through the cracks, more than a couple thousand, many times with these audit opportunities. Next, those are the three main components of the grievance tracking system. But there are other parts that any steward should definitely incorporate into their computers. I suggest you ask for the everything report every pay period if you have issues with Article 8 in PDF format, and save them to a folder for that year. It makes those hours easy to reference for other things, such as I have a carrier that asked me to input their OWCP hours. I no longer have to ask management to print those hours. I have a reference of the whole year already on my computer. I suggest you also keep an Excel spreadsheet of things that could potentially be escalated. I call these escalation charts, and they are essentially a cover page for settlements inserted into a non-compliance case that summarizes the toll non-compliance has had on the office for that issue and supports the case for escalation. I will have an example of one on the Parcels of Knowledge Facebook. In fact, I'm going to have an example of all of these, so don't forget to go there and follow me. I suggest you have a folder for forms that you regularly need to fill out, like requests for time, information, and 8190s you can fill out digitally. Additionally, with that being said, not only would I print the form for handing to management, but I would also send a copy via email to management so that they know exactly when you sent it to them. That way you can show that, hey, I sent this to the supervisor on this particular day. There's going to be no questions about whether or not I received this time or information, because there's documented evidence I specifically gave it to them. I would do it both ways though, physically and digitally, so they have no excuse. I also suggest you have a folder for your Step B building so that you can save the contentions of the cases you send up. That way you may use them as a template for future use. And for settlements, you should do the same. Save each one with the case number and violation in the name. That way you can use those templates for future cases and save time. For example, for Article 8 improper mandation, many times the circumstances will be same or similar, but the names and dates may need to change. You may spend 2 hours on the original case sending it to Step B. With a good template, you can get it done the next time in maybe 20 minutes or less by just changing dates, names, times, particular details that are particular to this instant case, but many of the details may be the same. Now, before I close out part 1, I would like to go over how this system can be beneficial for being effective and staying on track for any steward. Hear me out and listen to part 2 before you leave those stewards who may sound like it's not interested, because get the full story and fully develop whether or not you guys may want to implement something similar in your stations. If you follow my advice and create all parts of this system, you'll be able to tackle anything that comes your way without having to delve through file cabinets of case files. I'll name a few examples, and then for part 2 I'll demonstrate those examples and more. I may even have some podcasters doing cameos, so you might want to hear part 2. Some examples of how this clears up everyday issues is if a carrier is interested in the status of the grievance, you will have to only reference the log to understand everything about that case. Like I said, the color coding, all the different 15 columns, you'll know everything about that case. That way you can tell them what's going on. If a manager requests the most recent settlements on a carrier's discipline because they're trying to determine upcoming discipline, you can reference it in a few clicks. Finding it on the log, you only need to refine it to that grievance name and then cross-reference it with your settlements for print. You instantly have the settlements in minutes. If you're trying to build a case for escalation on Article 15 or any other issue, you only need to refine the log to that particular issue, such as Article 15, for each year you want to reference, and it will give you a breakdown of all the cases that have been settled, and you can print each one of them for use in your case. You can use the cost to the service tab to show each year how much your stewards have financially benefited the letter carrier for each year. Now, I got my totals. 2023 we did $54,142.29. 2024 we got carriers $50,797.34. So far for 2025, we're not doing as good, but it's because we have less violations. We got $17,729.40. And this is tightly tracked by me, and it's very easily tracked as long as you follow the steps that I'm going to give you today and in the next episode. There is a multitude of things this system can be used for, and should be. And on part 2, I will demonstrate exactly how and why they're useful. Part 2 should be posted either tomorrow or the next day, depending on its production, and then a video should be posted next week. Part 2 will have some hilarious skits from a podcaster or two, so be sure to tune in because it's going to be a good one. And don't forget to check the Parcels of Knowledge Facebook for pictures of each and every one of these things that I mentioned today in terms of how they should look like and what my categories are. I hope you have learned something valuable today, and as always, have a good day.
Out to the Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The Grievance Genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Brothers and sisters, this guy is good, man. He's fucking good.
And my boy Joshua, he killed it. Man, he's lockstep right now. He's killing it.